Okay, so this is the second part of the 3D Ballistics tutorial. Just want to mention real quick something that I forgot to mention in the last video, that your muzzle bone doesn't have to be exactly the muzzle. It can really be whatever you want. It could be the weapon bone even if you want. I think the problem with using the weapon bone personally and not setting up a muzzle bone is just that you don't have as much control over it. So you kind of have to do more adjustments with setting up your own muzzle bone or adjusting the existing muzzle bone. You're able to kind of finely tune where that point is placed, where the bullet is firing from, and where your muzzle flash is firing from. So that's really up to you how much work you want to do, but I personally think it's worth putting the muzzle bone in the armature or adjusting it rather than just leaving it to whatever is there if it doesn't cause issues. Okay, so now that we're in game, you want to go into your settings and you're going to go to your modded exes, then go to visual crosshair, and then you want to do always show crosshair and draw separate crosshairs. This is going to let you see the different crosshairs that are going to set up. So for the first one, you're going to want to go down to camera, far, set show crosshair, and show recon. You can leave all these settings the same, then change your color. It's probably going to default to white. I usually set it to black or some other kind of color. You should do that through the standard visual and the UI HUD. Here you can set the crosshair for the second, the weapon crosshair itself actually. So go back to modded exes, crosshair, set your first crosshair to color. This just comes out to black, so I'm not really sure why. Some weird exe thing. So go down, skip the near, and then go down to weapon, and activate show crosshair on the weapon far, show recon, and then use shader crosshair. That should default to crosshair dot, which I think is pretty good for setting up the difference between the camera and where the weapon is shooting. And then go ahead and change the color again. I'm not really sure how all this works because this doesn't seem to correlate to the color that you get. That is back in the UI. This will be the color that you end up getting for your weapon crosshair. So you're gonna hit apply, go back to your game, and then pull out the gun that you want to edit. Here I have an RFB that I'm working on. So at this point you should see two different crosshairs. I have mine set to green just because it contrasts pretty well, and then the camera crosshair is always going to be black. That's always going to be at the center of the screen. Let's change it to like cloudy around 9, let's go around 7. Yeah, so that's a good contrast. So now you can see at the center of the screen there's a black dot, and off a little higher than that is a green dot that is kind of looks like it's floating, and that is exactly where the bullet will shoot under 3D Ballistics when you have that enabled. If I shoot, you can see that in normal anomaly it would shoot, or rather without 3D Ballistics, it would shoot to the center of the screen rather than that black point. With 3D Ballistics on, it shoots exactly where the green dot is. So, you see, it shoots exactly where it's supposed to. So in order to get this aligned to shoot at the center of the screen, you're going to go into your HUD editor, and you're going to drag around your hand orientation. So go ahead and drag that until it's pretty much centered with the black dot at the center of the screen. Okay. So now at this point, your bullets will now always go to the center of your screen if you have 3D ballistics off, or it will perfectly follow the around the center of the screen if you have it on. So now when I shoot, to the center. A lot of this is dependent on where your how your idle animation works. I think here something messed it up. Yeah, so it went off a little. I think because the idle animation played in the background. Okay. So now it's idling around the center of the screen. Something to note is that when you shoot a weapon, it will reset the animation. You'll see that it kind of resets to like the beginning of the shooting animation. Just a fun little, thing that I found out while just testing this stuff out. So let's go back to the editing mode. So now at this point, your hand orientation should never change. From here, you can edit your hand position if you want it to. I don't know why I just did that. I don't know. Sometimes this game's weird sometimes. So from this point, there's two things you can do. The first thing is that you can set up your final HUD position exactly how you want it. Well, not exactly, because you have to go and modify the orientation. You can't modify the orientation, rather. So if you're trying to set up a reposition, your orientations cannot change. So let's go ahead and set a hand position. Okay, so say that's where I want my position to be. So let's go with that. Now you go into aim mode, and you can go ahead and edit your aim orientation so that it is exactly where the dot is. I forgot to change it, so it's already exactly where it's supposed to be. So let's say it just started like somewhere out here after I fix my hands. So then we're going to go, and again with it aiming, we're going to adjust it so that the weapon dot is exactly where the camera dot is. Then you go up and you adjust your aim position, and you kind of want to adjust it to exactly where the front post lines up with the dot, and then the back post lines up with the front post. I use this overlay that I've shared with some of you to kind of meticulously line up my sights, just because it ends up looking a lot nicer, I think. So here I've lined up the back post, or the back aperture, with one of the rings that is centered on the screen, and that is also aligned with the front post. If I take that off, and then we could just adjust forward or back, wherever I want the position to be. And now we are set for 3D ballistics. So from this point, you can actually use these positions and these orientations to adjust the rest of your scopes. When you're doing a new gun, you can set your orientation, both your hand position, hand orientation. You shouldn't change this ever. And then you can set your aim orientation, aim position as your base for whatever your base happens to be. And then whenever you do your scopes or your sights, you only need to adjust the aim position to get for the 3D ballistics, to get that in sight. You never have to adjust the orientation, because that'll always be set and that'll always be perfectly at the center. So you should only ever have two more entries under your weapon section. So I think I have it. I think this thing is set up. Yeah. Okay. So then from here, let's actually go back into weapon edit, copy settings, and then paste. Okay. So from here, we do paste settings. And now the scope is a little bit off, but we can easily fix that. All we have to do is adjust the position again. And just turn on my overlay, kind of adjust it to match my rings. Then, without ever touching the orientation, we've now perfectly aligned the scope. So now the scope is ready for 3D ballistics. And you do that with any sight, any scope, as long as your orientation never changes. It'll always be center screen. It'll always be aligned for 3D ballistics. Things to note is that when you set up your fire bone, that is where your bullet comes out of, you want to set it to whatever you set as your muzzle. So if you use your muzzle bone, you know, obviously put that as fire bone. If you try to set up a fire bone that doesn't exist on your model, you will get a crash. So that's something to look out for. And then if you precisely set up your muzzle position, you want to set, your muzzle position in the armature. You want to go into your LTX and set your fire position to 0, 0, 0. So that is where your so that's pretty much it. It's not too complicated. It's a little tedious to set up at first, but once you get used to doing it, it becomes a lot easier to the point where it's it's just become second second nature, kind of part of your workflow. It's a lot easier, I think, than setting up every individual hand position and aim position, all that stuff, the way we were doing it before. And even if you don't play with 3D ballistics, in this case, all your positions will still be set up perfectly for the center of the screen, so you can continue to play without 3D ballistics. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. One last thing, actually, I want to show you guys is that the way I do things is that I will set up my hand orientation and then kind of just put my hand position in a non-obtrusive place, and then the final position I will do with base position and base orientation using base offset mod. The reason why I do that is because if you want to give your weapon some kind of tilt, it's easier to adjust your sights and your scopes with a flat hand orientation rather than trying to adjust it with a tilted hand orientation to perfectly get in the center of the screen. This will adjust your position a little bit. As you can see, the green dot is shifting a little bit. Here it's not so bad now that I've fixed it. But from here you can adjust your base orientation to wherever you want it, whatever you think might look good. Again, never touching the X or the Y axes on the base orientation, because that will also move around the barrel position and mess up your 3D ballistics setting. Or if you don't feel like going through all the trouble of fixing your hand orientation or anything for existing weapons, you can always use base orientation to adjust the existing weapon position so that it's kind of in line with 3D ballistics, at least for hip firing. You still will have to do the adjustments for the scopes, so that's why I think it's just always better to start with your hand orientation and position first, then go down, set your base aim orientation and position. You never touch your orientation again for any of your other scopes or sights, and then finally use base position and base orientation to make the final adjustments to your HUD positioning for your weapon. So that's it. Again, if you got any questions, just either send me a DM or ask in the 30 thread on Gamma. Or just ping me. Anything works. Alright.